The future of storytelling can be found in new and unique genres. Welcome to Jenn's Writing World. If you have a story to tell, you are in the right place. Let's do it one day at a time. We all know book genres. If you go into Barnes & Noble, a secondhand bookstore, even your library, you'll notice the books are separated. Mysteries are in one area, romances are in another. Those are book genres. It is a way that we say, what type of book is it? Obviously, a romance can have a mysterious element, but there is something that makes it a romance, and we stick it with all the other books like that. In the same way, mystery can certainly have romance in it, but there is something that makes it overwhelmingly a mystery, and so we tuck it over there in that genre with all the other mysteries. Now, inside large traditional genres, there are subgenres. In your mysteries, you might have cozies or hard-boiled or police procedurals. In your romances, you might have historical romances, paranormal romances, front porch romances, religious romances. But they all are under the umbrella of romance. New genres are popping up all the time. In the past 20 years, some really exciting and unique ones have shown up on the scene, and today I'd like to talk about them, because while it's fun to write a mystery, and it's fun to write a romance, it might be even more fun to try a genre that maybe you're not completely familiar with. The best way to get started writing these kind of new genres is to read books in that genre, and that will give you a flavor of what the genre is about, and then you can go and write your own stories too. And what's even more fun is that if you are, let's say, a mystery writer, you might find that these new genres allow you to create subgenres in what you like to write. So you're still writing a mystery, but maybe you're writing a mystery with a new and unique genre twist. So let's go explore some of these newer and unique genres. I will have examples of books that fit into each genre in the notes down below, so you can check out some of the stories for yourself. Google, Amazon, places like that are also great ways to discover new genres, because all you gotta do is type in the search engine and lots of ideas will appear. I do hope you find inspiration in these new genres. Perhaps your next book is hiding there. The first genre I want to talk about is Cli-fi. We all know that sci-fi stands for science fiction. Well, Cli-fi stands for climate fiction. So this genre is filled with books dealing with climate change and its impact on the planet. There's a lot of ways that this genre can go. They can be science heavy, they can be politics heavy, or they can just be apocalyptic novels about the environment gone crazy. I was surprised in my research to find out that I've actually read several books in this genre and enjoyed most of them. One book is State of Fear by Michael Crichton, which only tells you that people have been writing books about the environment for a long time. This is absolutely one of my favorite Michael Crichton books, and if you have not read it, I highly recommend it. Not that there's really a bad Michael Crichton book. I enjoy all the ones I've read so far, but State of Fear is something special. Another book in the genre, if you would like to see how the future may look with climate change, is to read New York 2140 by Kim Stanley Robinson. I'm not going to say I loved this book. I loved a lot of things about this book. Unfortunately, I felt the plot took a serious twist in the last third of the book, and it wasn't what I was expecting. So, Oh, it's also a Chihuahua killer, which is not something I usually read. So it must have been pretty good for me to get all the way through it. And it was. It had a lot of great discussion topics. The next genre I want to talk about is picture books for the elderly. I'd never heard of this before I started researching these genres, but I think it is a most wonderful idea. These are books for older people, possibly with Alzheimer's or dementia. And the idea that these people who love to read throughout their life can now still read books, just books that are more picture than words, is, I think, a wonderful idea. Plus, it must be doing something good for their brains. So, and I did include down below a list of books in this genre. And I think it's important for people who want to write picture books for the elderly and older people is that you're not just writing a picture book for children. Because while some topics are appropriate for both children and the elderly, and I would think things like nature would fall into this category, you're not writing a book on, oh, I don't know, learning how to read and things like that, that you might have in a children's book meant for children. Picture books for adults are going to have stories that appeal to people who have lived a life. And the illustrations are often beautiful and they have a lot of richness to them, so that people who may not be able to read the words can still get a lot out of the pictures. And in contrast with picture books for the elderly, which are beautiful and lovely, is the genre of Bizarro. This is another one I had not heard of, except for the fact that I understand the idea of weird books. Again, though, even though I hadn't read any of the books listed there, I have seen weird movies. If you have not seen Iron Sky, which I call Nazis on the Dark Side of the Moon, it is one of the weirdest movies I ever saw. My husband still says I have zero taste when it comes to movies. But you know what? I really liked it because it was really weird. The Sharknado films would fall into that category for me. So if you like those kind of films, you would probably like those kind of books. As a matter of fact, I am going to be looking for some of these books now that I know they are out there. The idea of weird is not just a little weird. I mean, we might put a lot of, tiny bits of weirdness in our books. We're talking books that break your mind. Alice in Wonderland for adults types of books. Books that in my mind would work really well for indie writers, because while there are a few publishers out there publishing Bizarro books and some e-zines, most publishers I don't think are going to touch the weirder end of this genre. However, if you are indie publishing, you can be as weird as you want. The next genre I want to talk about is minimalism. Now, when I think minimalist writing, I think Ernest Hemingway. I've not read a lot of Ernest Hemingway, mostly The Old Man and the Sea, and I didn't like it. Partly I didn't like it just because of the story, talk about depressing, but partly because it was so terse. The sentences were so short, there was no description, I didn't enjoy it, and I know I am in the minority. I know a lot of people, including my husband, who adore Ernest Hemingway. If that is true, then you would be glad to know that a new bunch of modern writers are writing in a minimalist style. Now, I say I don't like Ernest Hemingway, so that would mean I don't like the minimalist style, but interestingly enough, I write a lot of flash fiction, and flash fiction fits into the minimalist genre very nicely. If you have 1,000 words or 500 words or even 100 words to write your story, you're not going to add a lot of unnecessary adjectives and adverbs, and every word is going to have to pull its weight, which is kind of the definition of minimalism. There is a trick with this genre, though. I do highly recommend that you read the books that I have on the list because, it's very simple to write in a lazy manner and call it minimalist, and they are not the same. If you are just leaving out words because you don't have the time or the energy to think of the right word, that is not minimalism. That is lazy. Minimalism is when you have every word pulling its weight, when every word is the right word. Now, the trick with minimalist and why it can be hard to write, I know it sounds like it's easy to write because you get to leave out a bunch of description, but it can be hard to write because you're not putting in the extras and you are relying on the reader to know what the story is you're telling. And if you're not careful and if you don't do it right, they're not going to get the story that you're telling. This is one definitely I think a lot of people can try, especially if you think that you're maybe too flowery in your writing. Too many adjectives, too many she said quietly instead of she whispered, or whatever it is that the better word is. So why not try some flash fiction? Why not try to be a little minimalistic in a story that you write? And last, but certainly not least, is Gran-lit. Now, this is obviously a take on chick-lit, and the idea being that those people that used to read chick-lit are growing older and now they're ready for Gran-lit. Now, some people don't like this term, and that can be a little understandable because Gran-lit kind of sounds like your granny reads it, and maybe it's not books for everybody, when in theory, even if you are writing Gran-lit, means you are writing books in which your protagonist is older. That does not mean that those books cannot appeal to younger readers. Certainly, you can write for baby boomers and have Gen X's or millennials enjoy it also. I didn't know about books being called Gran-lit, but I can certainly think of a lot of movies that have come out recently that are using older characters, older storylines. One that I didn't see, however, I actually kind of wanted to, was called Poms, and it was a bunch of women in a retirement community who decide to become cheerleaders. Being a fan of teeny bopper cheerleader movies, like Bring It On, I certainly figured that I would enjoy the same storyline, but with senior citizens. So definitely Gran-lit can appeal to plenty of people if you write it correctly. The other thing about Gran-lit is that it does not have to be boring, stuffy. It's not Miss Marple. It's not about them all sitting around drinking tea and talking about things. In the thumbnail, I showed Red, and I could definitely put Red in Gran-lit. This is based on a graphic novel, by the way, so it does apply as a book. But Red stands for Retired, Extremely Dangerous, and all the characters in here are all older, and yes, retired in theory, but they're also all trained killers and you cannot stop them. And so I think that anyone who wants to write an adventure series featuring older characters, that could go over very well, both with older readers and with younger readers. And I think that's the trick with Gran-lit. What I am trying to do here today is to show you some new genres, and by new, some of these are 20-year-old genres. I mean, Red didn't exactly come out yesterday, but they're genres that maybe haven't caught on quite yet, or maybe you haven't heard of them. But if you want to take your writing somewhere new, if you want to try and find a new readership or appeal to people that maybe, there's not a lot of books written for them, then I think that exploring new genres is a way to do it. And there are a lot more than just the 5 that I have listed. And I hope that you will look at the lists down in the notes. More are listed there. I hope that you will try out some of the books, read them. They might not be to your taste. Certainly, I don't know if I'm going to go and find that I like every Bizarro book that's out there. But I do look forward to finding picture books for the elderly and maybe trying my hand at it myself. And maybe when you read these books and you read in these new genres, ideas spark in your own mind. And that's what I want for all of us. I want ideas to spark. And one way to do that is to explore. And one way to explore is to read books in genres that maybe you've not read before. Join me Tuesday, and we'll use all this inspiration for our first Pomodoro write-in. It promises to be exciting. If you want to see more videos like today's, or like the short that I did on Friday, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. A like is always appreciated, and I would love it if you would share the channel with your writing friends. Maybe some of them would like to learn about some new genres. Today's quote is by Kimberla, Lawson, Roby. She is an American author and best known for her Reverend Curtis Black series. And this is what she said. What I have tried to do from the very beginning is to build relationships with each of my readers, one reader at a time. I think that is the best thing that any author can do, and one way to do it is to write in genres that your readers enjoy. So long from Jenn's Writing World, until we meet again, write.